Well, good day. It's Independence Day, the 4th of July. Happy 4th. Another dispute between a court, U.S. District Court, and the U.S. Marshals, this time in the District of Columbia. And just a little lead in for those of you who don't know about the District of Columbia. It's obviously it's federal territory. So you're going to have two courts that have authority. You have the United States District Court. And every state and territory is covered by a U.S. District Court. So the District of Columbia is its own district. But because of D.C. as a unique status, it's not a state, it's not a territory, but the Congress of the U.S. granted to the City Council of the District of Columbia the authority to write their own legislation, and they have D.C. Superior Courts which handle that. So when a person is arrested in D.C., say by the MPD, Metropolitan Police, let's say for armed robbery, you could be charged in D.C. Superior Court, or you can go to U.S. District Court. They have two choices. D.C. Superior Court is prosecuted by assistant U.S. attorneys. They don't have their own DAs, because again, it's not a state, it's not a county. The court is bailiffed by deputy U.S. Marshals. There's a ton of marshals in D.C. That's a good place to go if you want to join the Marshals. And the magistrates in D.C. Superior Court are federal magistrates. So here's the dispute, or here's what gave rise to the dispute. A couple months ago, an undocumented alien, or migrant, I don't know what the term is, but whatever they were, he was arrested by the MPD for unspecified crime, taken in charge in D.C. Superior Court. While he was being held in custody, ICE, realizing he is not here legally, filed a detainer on him, which is a request that he not be released. Now, of course, now he's in Marshals custody. The D.C. police don't have their own jail. He's in Marshals custody. And he had made his appearance before the United States magistrate. And the magistrate sent a low bond, which he was able to make. And the Marshals continued to detain him based on the fact that there was an ICE detainer on this man. But U.S. District Court, Royce Lamberth, ruled that the detainer is only a request. It's not a true warrant. So begs a couple of questions. Number one, is a detainer a true warrant? Number two, who do the Marshals work for? If this judge orders them to release this guy, do they have to do it? So I've got a little bit of educational slideshow, we should say, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. So again, as I said in the intro, ICE detainers and U.S. Marshals begs the question, who do these guys work for? Who do the Marshals work for? And the Marshals' arrest authority is given to them by federal law, and they are authorized, of course, to enforce all federal laws, all state laws, all local laws. This goes back to 1789. They were really the only game in town insofar as the Justice Department was concerned. So they were given authority because much of the United States, as you know or don't know, was not a state. It was federal territories. But because it was considered necessary, marshals were given authority to enforce all laws. So technically a marshal can enforce immigration law, as can a DEA agent. DEA obviously doesn't do that, but we could arrest somebody who's not here legally for no other purpose. We can arrest anybody, or could arrest anybody when I was in DEA, for any violation of federal law. Now, what about ICE? Now, they do have authority to issue detainers, and it simply says it's part of a regulation written by the Secretary of Homeland Security that any immigration officer can issue the I-247, the detainer, and it is a request. It's not an order, but it's a request for a state and local or federal to advise the department prior to releasing the alien in order to, or for the department to arrange custody of the person when gaining immediate physical custody is impractical or impossible. So again, what happened was a undocumented alien was arrested, brought to court, ordered released by the magistrate, and U.S. District Court Judge Royce Lamberth said that the marshals had no authority to to act under the ICE detainer for the simple reason that the ICE detainer is issued by an immigration officer and not a judge. Okay? Now, is he right or is he wrong? He's wrong, and here's why he's wrong. Marshals have, again, the greatest statutory authority of any law enforcement branch, but most importantly, the United States Code says, and I'm quoting right here, word for word, except as otherwise provided for by a law or procedure, the Marshal Service shall execute all lawful writs, processes, and orders issued under the authority of the United States, and shall command all necessary assistance to execute its duties. So they can even enforce administrative writs, which a detainer request is, but they can also hold the man or woman on their own authority, simply the fact that they are federal law enforcement officers. And again, it begs the question, who do they work for? You know, obviously marshals are appointed by the president, the marshal. Deputy marshals are appointed under the Justice Department executive branch. And yes, they are the executive arm of the courts, although no judge can hire or fire a marshal or deputy marshal. Courts can hire and fire probation officers. They work solely for the judiciary, but the marshals do not. And again, they have the greatest statutory authority of any law enforcement agency in the U.S., and they can enforce not only violations of any federal or state law, but administrative writs issued by other federal agencies. Okay, so that's it. I think anything to do with immigration these days is going to get politicized. I think law enforcement is going to get politicized. I think judges are going to weigh in and do what they want to do. It's such a highly charged topic. But on this one, I think the marshals are in the right and ICE is in the right. I think the judge goofed up. Now, what is the options, you know? Well, the only option really is to appeal it to the D.C. Court of Appeals, which is the second highest court in the United States. Because if Judge Lamberth's ruling stands, you know, a ruling by a judge in D.C. D.C. has universal jurisdiction, okay? So that you know that. That's why the D.C. Court of Appeals is the highest appellate court. It's higher than, you know, the Ninth Circuit or any of these other appeal courts. But it's high for that reason, and you know, otherwise the ruling would be that a detainer is not a warrant, and an officer could be held liable, constitutionally liable, for holding a person pursuant to a detainer. And this would apply to state officers, local officers, federal officers. Okay, so that's something that, you know, it has to be fixed. Hopefully will be fixed by the appeals court. But then it also begs the question, you know, who do these guys work for? You know, and they work for the executive branch. They are the executive arm of the federal court, but they work for the president. The U.S. Marshals appointed by the president. Deputy marshals are hired by the executive branch. They're under DOJ. They report to the Attorney General. So maybe this has cleared it up for you, but I think there's going to be more of these in the future. But I've got another one coming up very shortly, so I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it's a little bit informative to you, or for you, and I think you're just going to see more of this coming up with regards to the marshals and who they work for and who's in charge. So have a good Independence Day.